stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Who is able to make war with him?
Dlaczego mogę siedzieć w ciepłym pomieszczeniu, na wygodnym fotelu, obżerać się tłustymi chipsami i enjoyować ten pokazuje i objaśnia piękny widok. Tak nie wygląda wielki ucisk. Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda. Ok? Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda. Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda.
It is Monday, May 13th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:53 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe and the Middle East. So what you're looking at here is a picture of 10 buses that mysteriously caught on fire and burned completely overnight last night in Poland. And this came just a few hours after several fires occurred in the capital of Poland, Warsaw. There was a giant shopping center with as many as 1,500 small shops that completely burned to the ground. And according to the Polish fire marshal, there were some unusual things about that fire in Warsaw. First of all, the whole shopping center burnt down very quickly, and also nobody called the emergency services. They had to get notified by the alarm system at the shopping center. There was not a single person in the shopping center that called 911, the equivalent of Polish 911, which is really weird. Also, the Polish fire service said that the fire started in multiple areas in the shopping center, which is very unusual because normally when you have a fire, it starts from one source. You don't have multiple fires that start in a shopping center at the same time. So it's almost like somebody put some pyrotechnic devices around the whole shopping center and lit all these devices on fire simultaneously to burn the whole thing down. And then just a few hours later, these buses catch fire and completely burn. So this is very, very concerning. It looks like we have some Russian agents operating in Poland. And the Polish president and the Polish prime minister met today in private to discuss the NATO nuclear sharing program that Poland officially applied to join a few weeks ago, as well as discussing security in general and the situation on the border with Belarus. Russia and Belarus have massed forces along the border of Poland and Belarus has set up S-400 missile defenses just a few miles from the Polish border, as well as several artillery regiments have been moved to the border of Poland as well. Belarus and Russia are now doing tactical nuclear weapons exercises together. And this is interesting because the Polish president and the Polish prime minister are total opposites politically. The Polish president is right-wing and the Polish prime minister is left-wing. So for them to meet in person and privately discuss these issues means something serious is going on, okay? So we'll have to wait and see if Poland gets the American nukes. My guess is they probably will get them, especially if Trump becomes president. And here's a picture of the Polish prime minister visiting the Polish border with Belarus. You can see him meeting here with some Polish military officials and Polish border guard officials here. Okay. And over the weekend, the Polish prime minister said that Poland was building bunkers and trenches along the border with Belarus and Russia. And this comes just a few days after Latvia started to dig anti-tank trenches along their border. And I reported yesterday that thousands of Russian troops have started to pour in to these areas here in the northern part of the Kharkiv Oblast. This is just 15 miles from downtown Kharkiv, guys. I think Russia's going to try to go for the city. And the Russian partisan group that was responsible for attacking and occupying Belgorod in Russia a few months ago posted a video to Telegram of them fighting against the Russian forces in Vovchansk. And we're hearing that the Russian African Corps, who are ex-Wagnerites, are now operating in Kharkiv. And in addition, units of the Moscow and Leningrad military districts are taking part in the offensive in the Kharkiv region, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. So we have Wagnerites participating in this operation. And the U.S. has deployed a container-type Mk-70 missile launcher to the Danish island of Bornholm in the Baltic Sea. The complex is capable of firing Tomahawk missiles and SM-6 missile interceptors. Okay, so this is huge news, guys. The U.S. deploying a missile complex to Denmark, and this is another sign that NATO is preparing for war with Russia in the Baltic region. Okay, so the SM-6 missiles are missile interceptors. They can intercept ballistic missiles, and Tomahawk missiles are long-range cruise missiles. And Denmark said that they're going to deliver F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine within the next month, according to the Prime Minister of Denmark. And the White House announced that the U.S. will provide a new military aid package to Ukraine in the coming days. Ukraine is going to receive a new Iris-T air defense and missile defense system from Germany this month, according to the German ambassador in Kiev, Martin Jaeger. And Spain will donate 10 Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine and also provide a new aid package that's going to be prepared by June the 30th, which is going to include artillery ammo, light and heavy machine guns, armored wheeled infantry vehicles, anti-tank weapons and field artillery shells, aerial observation systems, and anti-drone weapons. Okay, so Spain and Germany and the U.S. providing more aid to Ukraine. Now that Russia is making gains in Kharkiv, they are scrambling to send out this aid. Citing sources in the NATO leadership, the Italian newspaper La Repubblica reported that concerns about a Russian provocation are growing. The alliance is therefore examining possible action plans. The current aim is to assess certain scenarios internally and to define guidelines for direct participation in the war. These are emergency plans, according to La Repubblica. The first red line is the direct or indirect participation of third parties in the Russian war against Ukraine. The focus is particularly on ensuring that no corridor is created between Kiev and Belarus. According to the report, the second scenario is a military provocation by Russia against the Baltic states, Poland, or a targeted attack on Moldova. Accordingly, it does not have to be an invasion by Russia. A military strike to put NATO to the test could be enough for an intervention. According to the Italian newspaper, it's about being prepared for all scenarios. Okay, so two red lines. One red line is if Belarus gets involved in the war and starts moving troops into Ukraine. The other red line is if Russia and or Belarus attacks the Baltics, Poland, or Moldova, then NATO would send forces into Ukraine. So very interesting. And the Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson admits the possibility of nuclear weapons being deployed in Sweden in the case of war. This was reported by the Swedish newspaper Expressen. In the case of a war, it's a completely different question. If the worst happens, democratic countries in our part of the world should, of course, be able to defend themselves against countries that might threaten to use nuclear weapons, he said. Wow, strong words there. And the government of Estonia is seriously discussing the possibility of sending troops into Western Ukraine to take over non-direct combat rear roles from Ukrainian forces in order to free them up to fight on the front. Tallinn's national security advisor to the president told Breaking Defense, Mattis Roll, said the executive branch is currently undertaking an analysis of the potential move, and though he said Estonia would prefer to make any such move as part of a full NATO mission to show broader combined strength and determination, he didn't rule out Estonia acting in a smaller coalition. Discussions are ongoing, he said on May 10th at the presidential palace. We should be looking at all the possibilities. We shouldn't have our minds restricted as to what we can do. He also emphasized that it's not unthinkable that NATO nations opposed to such a move would change their mind as time goes on. Okay, so this is interesting, and this is coming right after Lithuania said that they would send forces into Ukraine in addition to France. Okay, so it looks like France, Lithuania, and Estonia are volunteering to send forces into Ukraine. And by some reports, France already has troops in Ukraine, in Odessa. But my guess is if Estonia sends troops in, it's probably going to be to guard the border with Belarus, because right now Ukraine has like 50,000 troops guarding the border with Belarus to make sure Belarus doesn't invade. So my guess is Estonia would send their troops there, and those troops that are now on the border with Belarus could then go to the front lines. During a meeting of the Federation Council of Russia, where Sergei Lavrov was making the case for his reappointment as the Russian foreign minister, he said Russia was ready to go to war with NATO over Ukraine. If the West wants to fight on the battlefield in the Ukraine conflict, Moscow is ready for it. Wow. And also the Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak, said today that we are closer to nuclear war than ever in history. Okay, so very serious statement from Rishi Sunak. And what you're looking at here is video footage of an oil refinery in the Volgograd Oblast in Russia that was attacked by Ukrainian drones last night. There was also a steel plant that was attacked as well. And Hezbollah instructors have arrived in Venezuela to prepare the National Bolivarian Army for a confrontation with the U.S. Army in Venezuela and Guyana, and to build Vietnam-style tunnels in the Amazon rainforest. This is being reported by Argentinian media, okay? So very, very concerning. And Erdogan, the president of Turkey, said today that more than 1,000 Hamas members are being treated in Turkish hospitals. Wow. Why is Turkey still a part of NATO? And Egyptian authorities have threatened to discontinue mediation efforts in Israel's negotiations with Hamas. Cairo is unhappy that Israel did not warn Egypt about its plans to seize the Rafah border crossing. So tensions between Egypt and Israel are at an all-time high, and here we have some new video footage coming out of Belgorod in Russia, and it shows this apartment block that apparently got hit by some kind of munition. The Ukrainians are saying that Russia did it to themselves, either by accident or on purpose as part of a false flag, and the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians did it. It doesn't matter. What matters is that Russia is convinced that Ukraine is responsible, and they're blaming Ukraine for it. It doesn't matter who actually did it. What matters is what Russia thinks and what Russia says, okay? And they're blaming it on Ukraine, and what they're trying to do is get the Russian people to support the war effort, because I think they're about to go into Kharkiv. And in the Republic of Georgia, special forces brutally beat protesters near the parliament building when they were protesting a new pro-Russian law banning membership of Georgia into the EU. And we have a new volcano erupting today in Indonesia on the Halmahera Island. This is the Ibu volcano. Look at this thing, guys. So we are definitely living in the end times. We have all these volcanoes erupting around the world. We have these freak earthquakes, including the one in New Jersey 2 months ago. We have all these wars going on. We had global auroras Friday night. There were auroras spotted all the way down to the equator. Okay. And in 1938, right before World War II started, there was a massive global aurora, just like the one we had Friday night. So I don't know if that global aurora on Friday is a sign from God that punishment is coming, judgment is coming, and that wars are about to escalate. But get prepared, guys. Things are really spiraling out of control around the world. And I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news.